Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, digital hello. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is David Lloyd. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of FREDsense Technologies. We're based out of Calgary, Canada, and we're a water instrumentation company looking to commercialize a next generation form of field kit solutions for understanding water quality that's so important in our lives and to virtually every industry on Earth. Water quality is such an impactful field today, and it really is sort of a new horizon in how we think about technology development, mainly because as an Internet of Things sort of area of developments in the environment, water quality still has a pretty archaic way of going about getting data. Whether you're a utility or an industrial player, if you need to understand what's going on within your water, what typically you have to be able to do is go out, have somebody go sample water, collect these samples and take them to an offsite lab, and sometimes wait 5 to 10 days in order to get this kind of information. It's slow, it's manual, it's very costly, and we're only starting to see the beginnings of real-time analysis solutions or new types of technologies that are making it available to grab this data in real time. Particularly if we're looking at regulation concerns, the types of contaminants that you need to monitor and the levels that those are at are always getting lower. And technology needs to be able to keep up to provide this real-time level of information so that we can decide how to move things forward. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about FREDsense and what we do more generally. And then I want to talk to you about one of our sensors that we're quite passionate about that we're building in response to what's going on with the COVID-19 pandemic today. What we do as a company is we're looking to create a fully digitized IoT platform to enable trace water quality analysis to happen in real time without the need for complex machinery or component technology that's difficult to be able to use. We do this in a really unique and different way. I'm actually a biologist in terms of my background, and our team are composed of biological sciences, genetic engineers, and hardware experts that are looking to use nature as the platform to be able to solve these unique challenges. We have a central platform where we genetically modify bacteria to be able to sense unique types of chemical compounds that are found in nature and integrate them into simple to use field kits that enable us to create these highly accurate and sensitive devices that can be field enabled and that drive data decisions quickly so that you're spending your time responding to the data rather than trying to collect it. What we also do is serve more as a chemical platform where we can plug in different types of biologically enabled sensors that are pre-existing to convert them into a format that is field enabled. So a lot of very highly sophisticated different types of measurement technologies are locked into labs, and our hardware platform is enabling them to be able to be used directly at a groundwater well site or within an environmental setting. What ultimately powers the technology, like I was talking about earlier, is this ability to take bacteria and genetically modify them into very accurate and sensitive systems. We do this by directly editing the DNA of these microorganisms so that they have the ability to respond to a select contaminant and then produce an electrochemical signal when that compound is there. So if you're familiar with other types of measurement technologies like a pH meter or other types of systems, the bacteria takes a chemical or compound that you want to be able to measure and produces this electrochemical compound that's highly tuned for those electrodes. So that makes this scalable and gives us the ability to rapidly get the information we need. I also wanted to note that we're the first company, to our knowledge, to also have regulatory approval to use these genetically modified organisms within a field setting. So these can be manufactured, imported, exported, and sold and used within a field environment and have been deemed safe by the EPA and Environment Canada. We have a number of different types of sensors, including arsenic for groundwater analysis, and we're building a number of unique types of microbes that are enabled onto this field platform for measuring things like iron, lead, acidity, a variety of different types of process contaminants that are important to optimizing groundwater treatment or different types of distribution system monitoring for utilities. This allows us to get our data faster, make better decisions, and drive better quality water resources to the many people that rely on it every day. So switching just for a second into a bit of a different space than rather than looking at chemical analysis, looking at virus detection, we were heavily impacted as a company back in March, as I think everyone else was, with the COVID-19 pandemic, realizing that we were going to need to change our business models, find new pathways to market. But being a sensor company also knew that there was a massive opportunity for us to get involved. COVID-19, as we all know, is having a profound impact on the world, and being able to quickly and accurately test is at the forefront of needs right now in order to understand how the virus is progressing, who is affected, where are some of these areas, and what can we do about it. What's been a really interesting finding in the last few months in particular has been that COVID-19 and the RNA and virus itself can be found in wastewater, and that you can actually use this wastewater to test for the virus and correlate that to how many individuals may be infected at a particular location or area. There's been a few papers that have come out even that have done analysis to show that if you could monitor 100,000 water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants, that could be the equivalent of testing billions of people with the same amount of resources. So there's a dramatic opportunity to save on cost, to increase the speed of information, and allow us to respond to changing conditions faster. So this, of course, gives us a ton of potential applications in what we can do. This can be used in public health as a tool for risk assessment, for understanding what's happening over time or over different geographical areas. It can be used as an early warning indicator, and even for more public or private use for school systems or other agencies that need to get this information so that they can better inform their decision-making on even a day-to-day basis if needed. The challenge, though, is very similar to what we talked about at the beginning, is that today you have to collect samples, you need to filter them, concentrate them, and then these need to be transported to labs. The RNA becomes extracted from the virus itself and then needs to be measured using a technique called RT-PCR, which is a very comprehensive and difficult to perform, oftentimes, technique at very low levels. So the testing can be sensitive, but it can be quite slow, and turnaround can take days. What this really means is that for us to be able to fully realize the potential of doing COVID-19 wastewater analysis work is we need a system that is allowing us to do faster turnaround, increase our throughput of samples, and be flexible about where and how we gather this information. And what we are here at FREDsense is looking to produce a rapid, portable, in-field analyzer as a game changer to understanding COVID-19 and wastewater. So this is just an example of what these systems look like. You can see the green box here in this workflow, and these are what our field kit systems look like today. They're green boxes that you can hold within a single hand. They're very mobile and ruggedized. And each one has multiple chambers that allow you to run samples in parallel. What we're developing is a workflow for wastewater engineers and for operators to be able to take samples that are pre-concentrated through the various methods that you might have read about already for COVID-19 analysis. So taking wastewater samples, concentrating them, taking that sample and extracting the RNA from it, and then placing it into these small cartridges that have our biological reagents so that you can run this test. So that in a few hours, wherever you need the analysis to occur, you can have your results transmitted to a decision maker to immediately respond and capture that data. So this is using our biological approach, where essentially we have the ability to release the RNA using standard methods within a wastewater sample and recognizing it through our system. So actually getting the RNA to bind to another RNA aptamer that, or a piece of RNA that essentially triggers our electrochemical system. This gives us a rapid response that can be very accurate and provide very low levels of detection. So unlike a complicated system which may need to be used in the lab, our hope is that this gives us the ability to start screening these COVID-19 samples for, or wastewater samples for COVID-19. We're really excited about this project and passionate to do this with partnership. We've been working on this now for the last 3 months and are really excited to say that we have a number of partners we're working with. One has been one of Asia's largest wastewater treatment service providers who has a number of different wastewater treatment facilities in Japan, China, and across the world that's coming in and looking at utilizing the system for their applications. We partnered with Elemental Accelerator, which is a global clean tech accelerator firm based out of Hawaii and California. It's looking to bring to the forefront new technologies to really impact how water analysis and water in general is being looked at. We also have a number of partners here locally in Calgary, a pilot plant here where we're doing wastewater work, as well as a third-party analytical lab that's going to be doing testing for us. So we're active in development right now and looking to be able to do some of our first pilots in early 2021. Today, we're looking to connect with people to help us inform what we're calling our COVID-19 advisory group, utilities and industrials that are interested in working with us to inform this technology as it's being developed, early pilot partners and other organizations that would be interested in the technology. And we are active in a seed round financing for this, as well as a number of other sensors that we have coming down the pipeline. And if you're interested in any of these, I would love to talk to you about it. Thanks so much for your time and look forward to answering your questions.
All right, thank you very much, David. And I'm just looking, are you unable? There you go.
Okay, I can now speak. Thank you. Okay, so just some of the problems of Zoom these days. David, I have a question for you while I'm waiting for Q&As to come through. How would we implement this at say a city level operation? Say if we're looking at maybe doing a pilot project or a demo, what does the groundwork look like? What do we need to? What are the first steps?
Yeah, great question. So we're looking for partners and organizations that are already testing for COVID or looking to be testing for COVID-19 within their wastewater. Because the footprint is so small of the device, there's very few requirements in order to be able to start testing. We need access to wastewater samples and trained operators who are ideally already taking those samples or are able to take those samples in a safe way. And then we can implement this into their standard process. So if you have a lab, whether it be mobile or a fixed point where samples are going to right now, not necessarily being shipped out to an analytical facility, but somewhere where you are handling wastewater, then we can implement with you to do this kind of work. We typically are looking right now for comparison studies. So for groups that may have a third-party collaborator that's doing analytical work, we also have a series of partners that we're working with to do this third-party comparison to show how this field system would be able to work compared to these standard methods that exist today. And
we're not limited to COVID-19 testing, right? We can do a number of other chemical tests?
Absolutely. One of our major sensors right now that we've been deploying for the last 1.5 years and have done about 13 of these deployments now is for arsenic analysis. We're also working in a variety of different projects. We're working with the Port of San Diego for stormwater analysis and looking at heavy metal contamination in industrial stormwater projects. And we were working with a variety of sensors like iron, manganese, acidity. So we really encourage anyone who might be interested in next generation monitoring to reach out and see what sort of sensors we can have to solve your challenges.
I'd like to add also, as part of this COVID-19 work that they're doing, if you actually would like to participate in a deeper customer discovery discussion, please just ping me. I'll put my email in the chat and we'll help organize through a lot of this, and we can, if you're interested, we can also set up a survey to get a bit more of this you know, broad industry perspective, which is part of why we had requested your presence today.
Thanks, Anne. David, I've got a question here about calibration and control. What kind of calibration and control do you have in place for the devices? And then from another perspective, I guess it's a two-part question. Are there any reagents and consumables, and what's the cost of each device?
Great questions. In terms of calibration and standards that are used within the test, each test runs in a fairly similar way, where we actually, in each cartridge, include standard reagent materials that standardize and calibrate the test as it's being run. So what this means is that whenever you're running a test, you're actually running a standard along with it. So rather than you, as an individual, needing to calibrate the system, it's self-calibrating through every test that you're running through this.
Right.
In terms of the use of the components within this test, there are reagent requirements that are needing to be used. So the cartridges are single-time use. That's how we get this high level of accuracy, is that there's a standard that's actually included within each of the cartridges. So there's that component, and there is a pre-processing step for COVID-19 where you need to be able to analyze and essentially isolate this RNA from a complex wastewater sample. So we're developing this to be field enabled, to be able to be used with simple devices rather than having to use pipettes or more comprehensive components to it. And we're looking to move to really understand pricing. That's our next step right now. A lot of this is based off of the simplicity of the tests that we're looking to implement. But I can certainly say it's going to be competitive with existing costs for the analytical lab. A lot of it is around the individual reagents that we're using right now.
And how much sample do you require for a single test?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it varies depending on the likelihood of finding an actual amount of RNA within a water sample. It varies between typically 100 milliliters to a 1 liter sample, and we prefer that they be concentrated if at all possible, just to increase that quantification ability that we have.
And are there any dilution effects in relation to the volume that you're using?
No. So one of the steps is actually to produce and amplify the RNA within the sample. So as long as we hit a base threshold to be able to amplify it up, then there's dilution isn't necessarily an issue in terms of the comparison of this test versus what an analytical lab would be doing. Dilution is a major challenge in wastewater depending on the system itself. So we'd love to sit down with that organization in particular to talk about where they're looking to sample and ensure they're getting the best chance of comprehensively screening for COVID.
So would it be better to have like a number of those at the different wastewater stations where you would test and then kind of get an average? Is that kind of give you a better understanding of the overall dilution factors?
Yeah, it's certainly dependent on what you're looking to test for. Most sampling is done as composite samples right now over a long period of time, and then those are concentrated so that you can get more of an average of what's going on. So depending on what your outcome is, the way that you'll sample that may change.
Okay. So just so that I understand, would this be the same? You talked about the COVID-19 tests, but would this be the same for the chemistry as well, the chemistry tests?
So for any of our chemistry tests, we use only a milliliter of sample. It's a very small amount, and it's just a process of taking a sample, placing it into the cartridge and then into the detector device, and then information is available in about an hour. So it's a much more streamlined, less difficult test to perform. And many of those are for environmental waters, drinking waters, or stormwater analysis as well.
And I have a question. This is a funny one. I know you mentioned it on one of the slides, but if you could just tell everyone what FRED stands for again, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So FRED is the Field Ready Electrochemical Detector. So it's the name of the product. It is not someone on our team, and unfortunately it means it's going to be difficult to hire a FRED now. But yeah, we were competing in a genetic engineering competition at MIT and had branded what we were doing on this biosensor platform with this little bacteria called FRED, and the name stuck around since we started several years ago.
Right. And your IP position, do you currently have patent protection? Are you operating under trade secrets? What's the...
Absolutely. So we have a couple of patents that are granted, a couple that are in process, and a number of trade secrets. Our patents are on the actual mechanism of detection through our electrochemical platform. And then we hold trade secrets on a lot of our processing technology on our cartridges, as well as some of the specific sensor solutions we have.
Right. And are the patents worldwide? Are they US, Canada?
Our granted patents are in Canada and the US, and our provisionals that we have right now and those in process are going to PCT filing worldwide.
All right. Anything else that you would like to add before we move on?
Thanks to everyone today, and to you, Jim and Anne, for your time. We really appreciate it, and looking forward to see how we can be part of the solution here.